Welcome to Ready Set Action. Today you've got Deborah Horowitz and myself, Christina Whitmer. We're going to present ideas for you on short form video tips to drive business growth. We're going to discuss the whys and hows. Stay tuned and thank you guys for joining today. Yeah, so let's just dig right in. I'll cue us up for an overview, and then I can't wait to hear the tip number one from you. Anyway, we did a quick introduction. As we do these short stories and live streams and podcasts, we want to make sure you guys have actionable tips to grow your business. We're going to talk a little bit today about the rise of short form video. It's obviously been on the rise for quite a while. And if you're a smart business owner, you're starting to think about how to use that. Deb, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are for what can we do with this?
Yeah, thank you for that. I was doing some research, obviously, as I always do before we do these sessions, but short form video actually started with a platform called Vine
Hmm.
in 2013. And it was a company, a social platform owned by Twitter at the time, but they didn't put a lot of money into it. That's why it's not around anymore. It only lasted a couple of years, but their introduction for short form video was 6 second videos. So you really didn't
Wow.
have a lot of time to say much of anything. And I think that's probably another reason why it didn't really take off. But given today's metrics on our attention span as humans is only 8 seconds long. Maybe they were onto something a little just ahead of their time. But then for 6 second videos, we're actually 2 seconds short of goldfish with their attention span of
Oh,
10 seconds.
wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy, but you can see why it really has gained so much in popularity, especially with the rise of TikTok and Instagram Reels and just the YouTube Shorts. And now LinkedIn is encouraging more and more people to put videos on their on their profile pages and do more with that with their posts. So there's a reason behind it. And so I think my tip number one is really leverage it. Leverage it for your business growth. There's the marketing space has this love hate relationship between short form and in depth video. A lot of times, short form can be seen as like shallow when it doesn't really give a good opportunity for you to build a relationship. But that's really not what it's meant to do. So, how you can leverage it is really look at the fact that it stops the scroll. It can really grab the attention quickly of your audience. It can increase your brand visibility because of the way that you're using it. And it can also encourage social sharing, which will certainly help you to achieve a wider audience and obviously more brand recognition.
Mhm.
So, think the thing is, think about creating the content around just snackable little tidbits of information, probably anywhere from 30 seconds to like a maximum of 3 minutes. And a
Okay.
lot of time when I'm looking at doing a video, whether it's for my website or for LinkedIn, I'll go through probably 5 or 6 iterations because I'm a slow talker. So I can get to that 3 minute mark in no time without getting through all of the point that I want to make. So I have to really spend the time to tweak it and get it to the point where I'm being concise and clear
Mhm.
with my message, right? I think that's probably tip number one. And remember, with short form, the shelf life is a lot shorter as well.
Right.
So when you're setting up your content calendar, weave those in to it with that in mind that it's not going to be one video that's going to carry you for maybe the whole month or something.
Right. And I like to pay attention to as I'm scrolling through, whether it's LinkedIn or X or wherever I'm at, I do like to see I pay close attention to what pulls me into something deeper because whenever I actually read an article, which right now I'm all into the Olympics and watching that stuff right now, but whenever pulls me in to read more, I try to pay attention to that trigger early on. Was it short form video? Was it the graphic? Was it the headline? Was it a combination of those things? So
Yeah.
because that'll give you tips too, right? About what you should do. And especially as you look at your audience, pay attention to what pulls you in, I think is a big deal.
Yes, absolutely. And also, anytime you can follow somebody else that's doing something similar in your
Mhm.
space to get a sense, direct sense, because a lot of times on, say, Instagram, I get pulled into all of those people that are refurbishing furniture because it's
Mhm.
something that I just love to see the before and after. But I could not use that in my business. Make sure that you're looking at the triggers that could actually
Mhm.
target your specific audience and not just entertain.
But you can look at before and after. I'm not sure exactly how, but that would be interesting to have some kind of analogy for you of a before and after chair versus a company that's trying to improve their HR and retention and all these things.
That's true. It's just a little bit more difficult to put it on a visual.
Good. I like
So,
that.
yeah. What about you for tip number 2?
So, for tip number two, as I was thinking about it, a lot of the question is you want to make sure you know what to talk about. So, when it comes to, I like your idea of the short form and then some in depth, like how do you use it? Because if you're going to create in depth content, I think you want to make sure you use it, repurpose it, spread it out, take it into bite sized pieces so it's as valuable as possible. So, anytime you make something a long form blog, a video educational, a webinar, whatever else it might be, want to make sure that you're taking it and repurposing it into several different buckets. So, first of all, the question is what to talk about. So, I like to keep notes of these things because I get these ideas randomly, right? And I know you and I do some brainstorming to figure out what we're going to talk about next. We use AI to sometimes do a little research to say, hey, what are marketers talking about? What are new business owners challenged with? We try to pull from there. I also pull from conversations in everyday life, right? Client conversations, colleague conversations, other webinars that I might attend. So I'm trying to pull things and I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to help these people and I know what to do and this is a problem. It's like how I used to look at what blogs to write. If
Yeah.
someone has a problem, I want to be part of that answer. So I like to jot those things down as we go. So we start to build content plan over time. What will we talk about? And then I like to personally make longer form content and then figure out how do I break that down into pieces to pull people in. Because if you want to know an answer, all I need is what are the sort of angles? We break this into three tips for a reason because that gives us some bite sized pieces to talk about later on. One thing is to brainstorm these ideas. What do you want to talk about? What's relevant to your businesses? Look for industry specific problems. If you could do product demos, behind the scenes, customer testimonials, quick tips, you want to think about all these things that are valuable, and you can always rotate what it is when you have this sort of overall theme that you're working with. That's one part for what do you talk about? And then we talk about formats. There's explainer videos, there's challenges, there's tutorials, there's screen share tutorials. There's just so many options, and I really encourage people to try it out. Honestly, you can stop putting things on YouTube. You can take them down if they embarrass you a year from now. But it really encourage you to be honest and open and true to yourself. And if you have something to share, try it, test it out, share it, and then move on. Because you talked about the shelf life of short form
Yeah.
content. It does have a shelf life. You could put it on YouTube or other places, even podcasts where people might find them. But the bulk of it is over when it's a week later, not even less than that. The bulk of it is over during that share space. Like I like to do, hey, did you miss the live stream on Saturday? So people can so try to find your opportunities to reshare and capture people because We invested time in putting this out.
Yeah,
So,
I think probably one of the longer shelf lives for the short form would be the explainer videos
mhm,
where you're putting up like a mini demo of your product or service and kind of
mhm,
giving them a sneak peek of what it's like to work with you or something like that, that you could keep up there for a longer period of time.
mhm. I like that. I like that. And I would say part two to this second tip is that we want to think about outreach, right? Do we want to advertise and promote this post? Do we want to think of other strategies that might extend the reach? So, a few things that we've tried and that we've also seen work for people is one is looking at guest speakers, right? So, when you bring a guest on, you've already extended your existing bubble by that person's network, right? So let's say it's a LinkedIn live stream or wherever else it's going. Of course, that person is going to promote it before or after, right? So the fun thing I think with a live stream is that you'll get a little more promotion from the person who's going to be there ahead of time. If it's more of a podcast, a lot of times you'll see promotion after it's live. People will share, and then you have that sort of window, and I think it's important to figure out what that window is for each thing. A live stream might have this type of window, very short. A podcast might have a 3-day window where you can try to get traction. So really look at that and plan your week out based on what you're doing with this. So I'm going to record on Monday. I'm going to have my process to push it out. And then the link goes to LinkedIn on Wednesday, to podcast on Thursday, and my website on Friday. And then there's an email maybe, right? Like whatever it is, just jot these things down so you have this repetition. You start to get expectations for people, right? I'm going
Yeah.
to hear that podcast on Thursday.
Yeah.
So the only other thing for reach, I think, is when you start to post and share this stuff, if you're talking about a thing or a product or a service or a person is on your interview or your video, you can tag them, of course, right? You can start to tag the things you're talking about. So if we're talking about email automation technology, right, we can start to look at tagging some of those companies we talk. And even on LinkedIn, if you didn't know this, you can edit your post after the fact and tag these people, and it's very beneficial. If we talk about HubSpot and MailChimp and Constant Contact, we can actually go back and add those in the comments, encourage the conversation and that type of stuff. I think whether you boost it, the nice thing about Facebook and some other things is that you can put small dollars into it. If you're very proud of something you just did, you know what? I'd like to test this and see what kind of reach we are. You can boost that and go from that. But I also think you can do something long form, break it into pieces, and then reshare it. Maybe you want to boost one of the pieces of it, which pushes to the longer form. I think that would be the better strategy because you're more likely, like you were talking about, the short form stuff is more likely to pull someone in if it's a good fit.
Yeah. And there's ways to leverage the short form video to drive them to a call to action that's going to bring them in, but then also get them on a journey with you. Right. So it's not just that they saw the video and they left. You always want to try to incorporate a call to action along the way to get them to take that next step with you once you've grabbed their attention.
100%. 100%. So, right. Let's roll into tip number 3. We'd love to hear any thoughts you have on one more tip for this short form video.
So I think it goes into what I just said. It's about setting up your resources, right?
Okay.
So really understanding what platform do I want to put this short form video on. And it doesn't have to be all of the platforms. You can just start with maybe one or two, depending on where you think you're getting most of your target audience from, right? So for me, it's LinkedIn is my primary form that I use for business to business. And then you want to take a look at what kind of editing tools are you going to use, right? So free resources, I really have fallen in love with Clipchamp, and it's a free editing tool. Adobe Express has another great
Mhm.
free editing tool. For those that have like more minimal charges, you could look at Hippo Video or Magisto, which is now by Vimeo, and they've been around for a long time in the video space, both separately and now they're together. But that I ran across a software review list on techradar.com that was rating the best free editing software out there. So I would encourage you guys to go out and do your own research with regard to what you want it to do for you. Canva's upping their game with AI video tools, played around and used that and had good success with it. And I am in no way near an editor or video editor at all. So I'm looking for the tools that make my life easy, that I don't really have to go back and get a degree in before I can use
Yeah.
the tools, right? Because I don't have time to do that as a business owner, right? So I'm looking at those things. And I think that it all depends on what you want to accomplish. So, for example, Hippo, they have a way where you can produce it, you can distribute it, you can add CTAs, you can add annotations to the video. So if you're doing like an explainer video and you want to add in some annotations, you can do it through Hippo. And I thought that's pretty cool. And they also have tracking tools. So you actually get
That's nice.
those analytics, which is always nice to have. So it's just looking at what is it I want it to do for me? And you can play
Mhm.
around and have different videos doing different things for you and figure out what your groove is going to be with the short form videos. But there are definitely a lot of different tools out there, and you don't have to break the bank to get into the space and really start to produce these videos.
Yeah, I like to, and I've seen some tools, and we'll definitely pop some of those links in there. Especially, I'd love to see that radar link that you mentioned, or the article that you mentioned. So, I was thinking about my experience when I'm watching some of these videos and captions. I think we
Yes.
maybe mentioned this before. Is that I love to see captions because if I'm watching, a lot of people are doing this social media, watching something on TV, watching in quotes, right? Like something on TV or doing something else, the captions are going to make me watch it longer because I am going to if I see what it says. And there is a bit of a anticipation with captions, a bit of excitement of what's going to be said because you can see it, but you're not hearing it for whatever reason. I watch a lot of videos that way because I just sometimes I just don't. I'm more of an anti-noise person, so that's my style anyway. But the captions have a lot of they just really extend your reach too for that.
I agree. In taking a look at how your consumer, right, your client is going to be digesting this content, right? To
Mhm.
your point, during the day, if we're business owners, we don't necessarily have the time to consume all of that content. So it's generally going to fall at night when the kids are finally tucked away, or you're sitting down after dinner with your spouse to watch sports or whatever's on TV, right? And that's generally as soon as he turns on a baseball game, I'm out. And so I'm picking up my phone and I'm looking through Instagram, LinkedIn, and I'm looking at those videos. And if they have the captions, I'm going to be much more likely to stop the scroll and,
Mhm.
dive into what they're talking about. So that's a great point. And just something to keep in mind is, when is this content going to be digested by my target audience?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think as we look at the extending the reach, obviously people talk about in like influencers, if you think about the broader definition of influencers. But I would encourage people to think of influencers as anyone who extends your audience, that basically influences your audience, because try not to think so literally. I know there's influencers and larger brands will pay a lot of money for that. and they'll look for opportunities to give away stuff or actually financially support people. But influencers, and it really is anyone who can extend your community. That's how you should look at it, especially as a small business. So if you use a platform, if you use a tool, if you use a partner for something, like let's say, I don't know, let's say there's a law firm that I work with and love, and they help companies create their S corp or LLCs or something like that, right? That's an opportunity to reference them from time to time, and something I don't do at all. I love them. Just start to build these relationships with people. And if they have a community, they may start to feed into it. So really think of influencer in much more of a literal definition, what that word means to you versus more of how it's being used right now, marketing, because that, especially in that, and that's where you can find opportunities to help people. So I think that's something to add to that reach component, is looking at building that loyalty.
Yeah. And along those lines, I see so many voices on LinkedIn really, and their call to action is repost this. And that is their way of obviously extending the reach, because then it goes over to that person's network on their particular profile page and gets seen by people that maybe are not in the group of followers that they already have. So, and short form, I keep saying short form video is the way to grab that attention and help get that brand out there and make sure that it is building this bigger audience for you. That's what it's all about for growth, is just extending your visibility to people that you have not had the opportunity to touch as of yet. So yeah, that's a great way to do it on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So just a little bit of recap here as we wind down. Tip number one, you really talked to us about snackable content versus in-depth content and how and when to use that. I really like that. That's a takeaway for people to start thinking about how to use it and when to use it. That's, again, tip number one. Tip number two, we have what to talk about, right? And there's so many things. So start your list, start following people, start getting ideas and making lists that can be used over time, because you don't want to be popping into something and have no clue what you're talking about. And you don't want to add stress to think about, do people care about what I'm talking about? So follow conversations and see what people are having issues with, and just put that into your list. And then the third tip was really a little bit about the audience, and then the collaboration, the influencer, and the reach. Does that sound like I recapped that well to you?
Yep. And it's just setting up your resources, knowing what tools you're going to be using for editing, and make sure that the video has that call to action.
Very good. Very good. So no excuses. Time to go ahead and do those three things. Start working on your business and continuing to make these incremental changes and improvement to improve your sales and growth. So awesome. So we got a few minutes, but I think that's fine. We can let people start working on their stuff. So
Yeah.
anything else?
I said, let us know in the comments when you get something up, and we'll come over and take a look at it and like it and share it and help you get on your way.
Absolutely. Put those links in there. We'll pop one over or share it. Again, thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you'll join us next week for Ready, Set, Action. We're here, Deborah Horowitz and Christina Whitmer. Hope you follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and we're on various podcasting platforms such as Spotify and more. So we will see you next week.
See you next week.